Alright, Year 9, so we've got our composition here that we've been working on, and what we're going to do, we will come back to this, but we're going to make some text, because this is going to be our title screen for our whole entire clip. Now we'll come back to how we can enhance what we have so far. I'm just going to scroll through and see if that's working. Yep. But as I was saying, we're going to make some text. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to go to composition up the top here and make a new composition. Now we're going to keep the settings the same, and we had 1280 by 720 pixels. It's going to be 10 seconds long as well, and be careful, again what we've got here, the first digit is hours, sorry, let's go back to front. We've got milliseconds here, and then seconds, and then minutes, and then hours. So again, we only want it to be 10 seconds long. We'll keep it at 30 frame rate, 30 frames per second, and we'll call the composition titles. Not that it matters too much at the moment. So once we hit OK, we get our blank screen again. We've got our comp here, still around, and this is where our titles are. So we need to give our titles a name. I've got the text button up the top here. I'm going to click that once, just like in Photoshop or even Paint, and I'm going to call this space. So we have our title, we've got an arrow up the top here, and that gives me constraints to make it larger or smaller, or I'll do what I want with it. I'm going to position it just here. We've also got your normal sort of font controls here as well. You can change anything you like. Might go for a different font. Let's have a scroll. See if we can find something that's a bit space-like. That's not bad. Okay. Now, this as a title in itself is a little bit boring, and we can do quite a few things to make this a bit more interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a texture underneath this. So I've selected this nebula here. I'm going to click and drag it underneath, and then what I'm going to do is go to my toggle switches / modes down here, press that, and then I've got some information here. What you want to do is go to the bottom layer, and where it says none, or no track matte, I want to make the alpha matte space. And now what I've done is the image is now underneath and showing through where our plain white font was. So I'm going to position this image until I find something that looks cool, maybe around there. And of course you can shrink it if you want to, or expand it, totally up to you. You just hit the box there, whatever you'd like to do. Just make sure you can read it. And what we're going to do after that is do some animating. I'm going to animate this text here. So at the moment, as we scroll through, nothing's really happening. But what I can do is go to Effects, and then I'm going to go to Simulation. Actually, let's go to Stylize instead. And I'm going to try out Roughen Edges. Okay, not much has happened. However, if I start to play with some of the controls, nothing's happening either. And the reason behind that is I've put it on the wrong layer. So it just goes to show you need to be very careful where you put this. Now what I can do is select this, and I can copy it, Command C, and then paste it on. Now when I start to change it, we can see we're affecting our text. Now how I'm moving that is I've left click on the control, on the number, and if I let go I can type in a number if I wish, or I can click and drag, and that will also affect it as well. Now we can animate every single control here, so as time passes different things happen. What I like to do when I first find an effect is actually go through all the different controls just by sliding them around and seeing what they do. So that's exactly what I'm doing now, and if I find a cool effect like that one's pretty cool, then I decide to use it. That's very space-like, I think. So, how do we animate? Big question. I'm going to go through this very slowly, and so we can all keep up. So, what I need to do first is make sure that this slider is set to where I want the animation to begin. For example, if I wanted everything to start at 2 seconds, I would move this to 2 and leave it there. I can also zoom in with this controller as well and get some very exact numbers. However, I don't need that much detail, so I'm going to leave it where it was. So at 2 seconds, I've got, actually let's start at 0. My idea here is it's going to fade in like that. So I've moved my border, which I want to animate, to where I want it, and I'm going to hit this stopwatch right here. And now we've set a keyframe, but nothing looks different. How do we keep track of what we're doing? Well, we can hit this arrow to the left of the stopwatch and then hit the arrow down here under space, and this opens up our controls. We've got text controls, which we can animate, the effects, and of course the transformation as well, so that would be making it larger or smaller. We want to go into the effects, then we want to go into rough and edges, and we found our first keyframe just down here. Now these keyframes can be moved and changed at any time. Right now I'm going to keep it at 0. Then I'm going to move up to 2 seconds, and I'm going to make this appear like so. Now as we can see down here, the next keyframe has appeared. It does it automatically, so as we scrub across we can see what's going to happen within that 2 second gap. If you want to see what it looks like in real time, you put your scrubber to the 0, we hit shift, and there we go. Now it looks okay. I think we can do more with it. It's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is, I really like the look of when I was playing with this control. I believe it was the scale. Yeah, it sort of fades in and out. So I want this to sort of pop out. We've got some complexity here as well. Doesn't look like it's doing much. Evolution doesn't look like it's doing much either. Let's have a look. Oh, a little bit. And again, it just pays to have a bit of an experiment with these different controls at different times and see what kind of effects can happen. Oh, that's quite cool. So I'm going to leave the scale down. So I'm going to have a 2-stage fade. So now at 4 seconds, I want that scale to go up again, just like so. And let's see. Oh, so what we've done, actually I haven't put a keyframe in, so nothing's really changed. So instead, what I need to do is put that scale back down again, hit the stopwatch at 0 seconds, and then going to move up to our 4 second mark, and I'm going to bring up the scale again. Now we've got sort of a no, we haven't got a 2-stage, and I'll tell you why. Because at 0 seconds, that scale that I've just changed is doing, sorry, wrong keyframe, that 0 seconds there is doing that change. So then we need to click and drag that keyframe up to 2 seconds, and now we're going to have a 2-stage There we go. Like it. I'll hit space, render that out. Very spacey. But I think we need a bit more of zing. So what we've got is another effect called a glow. So I'm going to effect, stylize, we've got glow. Now I'm going to bring this up to 4 seconds when the computer allows me to. There we go. And at the moment nothing's happened because we haven't changed these controls. I may have put the glow. Oh no, it's there. It's in the right layer. So what's stopping it from not working? We'll try and play with the glow here. No. There we are. Okay. Let's amp that glow up. Maybe put it on top. And add is what we're after as well. It's just not very glowy. So, what can we do? We can not do much by the look of things. Never mind, we'll get rid of the glow. Sometimes a control will override another one. So for example, we'll get rid of this and we'll try something else. Again, that's the beauty about After Effects. There's so much to discover, so much to try out. Sometimes things don't work, sometimes things do work. So let's try something else instead. Again, I've gone to Effect, Stylize, and if you want to choose your own effects, you can and have a bit of a play around with that. But I'm going to try Strobe Light. Okay, nothing's really happened. So let's blend it and turn it up. Now I don't think a lighting effect is going to work here, and I can't tell you why, but it just looks that way. So what we can do instead is take this over to our original composition and put some effects like glow and strobe light on it there instead. But for right now, I'm pretty happy with that. So what we need to do to get it over is we need to close all this off. So I'm going to scroll up, hit that little arrow to bring it to the right. I'm going to shift select both of those layers, and I'm going to hit Command Shift C. And that's going to allow us to pre-compose this, which basically means combining the two layers. So we're going to call this one title. Move all attributes into the new composition, yes, and don't worry about these two ones here. So we'll click OK. Now the two have become one. We're going to go back over to our first composition, and we're going to go to our project, and we will see title just down there. I'm going to click and drag that on the very top layer, scrub along, and there we go, space coming out of the gloom. Now again, I can reposition that, and what we can do now as well is change the color, put on our glows, and make it appear a bit more 3D as well. So what I'm going to do, first off, the color. I'm going to zoom in here. There we are. And I've done that by using the scrolly wheel. I can also use these controls here as well. And to move around the composition, I grab this hand up the top here, and I'm going to place that front and center. A bit too close. Now, what I'm going to do first is what we call color correction. So we can change the color of this layer. So we need to select it first. I'm then going to go to Layer. Then I'm going to go to New. Actually no, let's try something else. Let's go to instead, sorry I got lost there for a moment guys. Going to go to Effect instead. Going to go to Color Correction, and then we're going to go to looking for levels. Curves will do as well. Go to Curves. Now in curves we're presented with a grid and a line intersecting in between. And what we need to do to experiment and have a bit of a play is click on the line and we can drag it down. As we can see, we're changing the color already, and going up top left makes it brighter. So what's going to stand out is contrast. So the mountains there are quite light. We want this to be quite dark. Now, once you've found something you're happy with, you just let go. So I'm clicking and dragging at the moment. You can add in more points to change it even further and change the contrast. And again, it's all about experimenting and see what works well. And just like Photoshop or any other Adobe product, not happy with something, Control Z takes it straight back again. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe a little bit darker. Yeah, just like that. Now I can also change the color as well. At the moment this purple is sort of reflecting a bit too much. Sorry, what I meant to say is it's sort of a bit, yeah, it's too similar to a background. Obviously it's the same image. So we can go to Effect, we can go to Color Correction, and we can go to Hue and Saturation. Now in here, and as we notice as well, these are all our effects that we've got for that specific layer. If we hit this tab, that's our project with all our image files. This one here is all the effect controls. So to change the color here, we've got our sliders, so we've got a master saturation, and we've also got a master lightness as well. So I want this a bit darker, and I also want to change the hue. I think a red would be quite cool, and might go a bit lighter. There we go. And once we're happy there, again, all these can be animated as well. So if you wanted your titles to be animated, cycling through the colors, they can do that, not a problem. Excellent, pretty happy with that. Oh, maybe green. There we go, it's going to stand out a bit more. Excellent. Okay, now we didn't put that glow on. We can do that now if we like. So again, going to go to Effect, Stylize, Glow. And there we go, our glows come through. So when we change, well, these levels, we can get some very cool effects happening. We've got the radius, all of these different ones. And again, we can tweak and fiddle and animate to our heart's content. But let's just find something that looks a bit nice. So perhaps we should have this glow animating in when it fades in as well. So we're going to hit that stopwatch, and we're going to find our keyframes in here as well. There we are, there's our first keyframe. And I'm going to have the glow go to about there. So let's bring up that glow. I like it. Thank you, After Effects, doing a bit of an autosave there for me. Again, very important to do. After all this hard work, you don't want to have the file get corrupted or your computer crash or something. Make sure you always update and save your work. Great. So let's drag that out a bit more. I like it. Alright, so now we've got our titles. Now we can make these a 3D object as well. Before we do that, because they're a bit 2D at the moment, I'm going to duplicate this layer. So Command C, Command V. There's our second title. And I'm going to go into the transform controls just down here, and I'm going to change the scale to 98%. And now what we've done is we can see we've gone a bit 3D. So here's the scale, well, that's the other layer off, and here is it on. I also like to make this a bit darker as well, so I get my levels, bring them way down. I can also pull down the lightness. There we are. And, oops, wrong way. As we can see, we're a bit more 3D now. If you want to make that more 3D, we go to 97. Yeah, I like it. Alright, so let's make this a 3D layer. What we're going to do is remember our box up here, and if you can't see this, just hit that toggle again. Going to select our box that disappeared because they're now in that 3D space. So let's go from one view to two view horizontal, go find them, and they'll be just here. I'm going to shift click both of them, and I'm going to move them forward until we can see them. So I'm going to scroll out of here, and on the Z, there we go. Now we can change the scale of these as well, not to forget. Excellent. Let's go back to 0 and hit play. See how we look. Okay, now remember this isn't in real time, it just needs to render out first. There we go. Great. So our titles are now in the 3D space. They now appear, they're animated, and they're looking a bit 3D as well. Of course, if you're not happy with this, you can move anything around, you can reanimate, change the color, do everything you like. So that's covering titles. Next, we're going to go back to our 3D space.